And then we are live when Sensys Gatso Group has closed their books on the third quarter of 2023. Standing beside me is CEO Ivo Mönnink. Welcome.
Thank you.
So when you take a look at the report, it's clear that you increase your revenues, and you reported for the third quarter revenues of 157 million SEK. 1 year ago, the figure was 95.4 million SEK, and additionally, a negative income statement a year ago has now turned into a positive income statement. Tell us how did the outcome of this quarter compare to your expectations?
Well, of course, these numbers are great for us, and we're very pleased with them. So the growth in the revenue, in the order intake, and the profitability shows that we're on track on living up to our expectations for the year, as well as for 2025, which is the long-term ambition. So yeah, we're very pleased with it, really.
We'll dive deeper into the order book, and we'll talk, of course, also about the guidance for 2023 that you've sort of confirmed now, and we'll get to that. But I'm still curious if you can talk a little bit generally about what is going on in the sector currently.
Well, what you see is that we're in the business of saving lives in traffic, and we all know that speed is a major contributor to fatalities and incidents in traffic. Actually, with the population in the world growing, with traffic increasing, we see a lot more fatalities nowadays. So, as you might well know, there is the 17 United Nations goals out there, and 2 of them are related to our business. So what we do is help countries achieving those targets. And that's exactly what we see in many parts of the world, developing countries, but also in the United States. The interest in implementing automated traffic enforcement has increased significantly.
And as you said in the first questions, your order intake is increasing. 1 year ago it was 53 million SEK, and now it has almost tripled to 145 million SEK. Could you walk us through your current order book? What is it valued now?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you would say, look at the total order book, we would talk about roughly around 2 billion SEK. The main contributors to that are 2 large orders. One is the Trafikverket, the Swedish tender, which we won, which was the largest order in the industry totally ever. So that's 850 million. And then we have the Dutch prosecution order, and that's 400 million. That grew actually this quarter, I should say actually after the quarter, from 250 million to 400 million. So those together is already nearly 1.3 billion. So those are big contributors to that. But there's also, that's the beauty of our business. We're a global company, so we also have business in the United States. We have business in Australia, business in the Middle East, Latin America, and so forth. So we also have orders on the books for those regions. What we also see, specifically the United States, there's growth there. We have a new team in place. We doubled the business in the past 5 years, and we look forward to doubling that again in the next 2 or 3 years. So huge potential in the United States, and growth actually in all the regions across the world already in our order book.
The orders from Sweden and Netherlands, they make up for quite a lot of the current order book. And I'm curious because you mentioned in the report that you're working on delivering them here in Q4. And at what pace can we expect deliveries moving on?
Yeah, I mean, we have been always the incumbent supplier for automated traffic enforcement here in Sweden. So we're the technology provider to Trafikverket, which probably all of you know. And we've been doing that for many, many, many years. Now a new tender came out, which is the famous 850 million tender I was just mentioning. We won it, but if a new tender comes out and you are the winner of it, you have to go through all the loops of qualifying the system, if you like. And that's a kind of a complex task to do, and I think that's also one of the reasons why we won it, because I have to say we're pretty good at that. But once you get past that phase, then you deliver a prototype. Once you deliver the prototype, you deliver a coolant sample, which are the 2 first revenue steps. Once those are approved by the government, then we start rolling out the installations of the systems, and then the whole maintenance part of those systems for the next 12 years will be continuing. So we need to make sure that if you get a citation, it's the correct one. So we never, you can trust on the equipment to give you the right readings, right?
You mentioned some other markets as well. I'm curious, how do you view the current diversity in your order book when we talk geographically?
Yeah, it's almost like looking at it. It's almost split between Europe, APAC, and the United States. 30% now, close to, not exactly.
So it's evenly diverse.
It's pretty evenly diverse, yes, and I'm pleased with that because it gives one region might be up one quarter and it's compensated by the other regions. What I do see is that the United States is stepping up time after time after time. So there we see the biggest growth opportunity for the company, quite frankly.
We'll get there in a moment, but I'm also curious because judging by your CEO letter, you seem very, very confident that you'll be able to deliver broadly across your entire order book moving forward. But surely you must have identified some challenges or risks.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about our customer base is that we're dealing with governmental institutions, and they have a habit of living up to their promises and the payments, by the way. So that's a good thing. However, at the same time, you could also say timing is always a challenge. So this is also why I always say, look at our business from a 12-month rolling perspective, not from a quarterly perspective, because these contracts and these projects are all long-term, and that means that they will be rolling out, but I think sometimes it might just hop over from one quarter to the other, and that's, I think, the only risk I see to our business model is that if stuff gets delayed, that we get penalized for that fact. But as a matter of fact, we should not, because it's very consistently rolled out in a correct way.
During the quarter here in Q3, the truss sales made up a slight majority of your income, and they increased 13%, and eyes towards US now. Tell us about what your focus is there and what your expectations are of the US market.
Well, I mean, truss is not only the US market, it's the majority, so let's look at that first. In the United States, we do full truss, which means that we install equipment, we maintain it, we send out the citations, we collect the funds, we distribute the funds between us and the customer. So it's the full business process outsourcing program, which we have named or labeled truss. That's the majority of it. But there's also service and maintenance. The beauty of, let's take a traffic fair gate. Once we have installed the equipment, that needs to be maintained, right? Let's say if we have cameras in tunnels, they need to be cleaned, as an example. The radars need to be calibrated, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another part of our truss business. But then looking at where the growth sits, as I mentioned, that's predominantly in the United States.
Can you tell us any specific states that you're currently active in or want to grow in?
Yeah, we're actually present in 11 states, but the two dominant ones would be Iowa and Ohio. So that's where we have our strongholds. But what we see happening right now in the United States is that states like Connecticut, but also Florida and California are states that are now opening up for automated traffic enforcement. And the reason why is the one I mentioned before, is that we see actually fatalities and incidents in traffic increasing in the United States. So Bill Biden has said we got to stop that. So his infrastructure bill facilitates investments in automated traffic enforcement, which we see happening now. So
and that's federal level, of course.
That would be federal level, yeah, absolutely. But it really tells you something about the momentum the global market has in relation to automated traffic enforcement, and specifically also, of course, the United States.
How would you compare your truss services in Europe to the US?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, in the US it's a full business process outsourcing where we do everything. In Europe, it's still to a large extent the domain of the traffic fair gate and police departments. Over time, I can see the truss model as it's currently operational in the United States, also moving to other parts in the world. A good example of that is now in Australia, where we do a model similar to what we do in the United States. So you already see it in some Western countries moving in that direction. With Sweden, I don't know. It's a matter of time, I think, but when that will happen, we don't know. Looking at new markets, like for instance Ghana, where we won a large contract, which actually is not even in our order book, but it's a large contract, and there we are starting to implement also the US model, the full truss or the full business process outsourcing of traffic enforcement. So we're making great progress there. We're looking forward to take a country where there is a ground zero situation in automated traffic enforcement with our help to the next level of safety in traffic.
This report, you were able to confirm the previous guidance that you gave in May of this year, and it's regarding the full year of 2023. You see income coming in between 550 and 650 million SEK with an EBITDA margin between 10 and 15%. How do you feel about this, being able to sort of confirm it?
Yeah, I mean, we had a strong quarter Q3, and typically we see an even stronger quarter in Q4. So let's say I feel really confident about that.
And what is the next step that you'll be taking following the new year? What sort of things will you focus on, and can we expect another guidance?
Well, expecting another guidance, I'm not so sure. The reason why is that we did come out with an annual guidance once related to the reversed share split we did, and that was just to be transparent to investors and to new investors. We do have come out with a long-term guidance, which is 1 billion by the end of 2025, and at least 15% of EBITDA and 600 million of recurring truss business. So for the moment, we stick to that. What happens after that, we'll see.
Would you say that unprofitable quarters are behind you then?
Well, let's cross our fingers, but it looks like it. Yeah.
I got a question here from a viewer. What is the latest news regarding the joint venture deal with Capatest?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuously talking to these guys. It is a bit of a slow process, quite frankly. It's an entirely new market to us, so that is it's moving, but it's moving slowly, let's say.
Ivo Mönnink, which is CEO of Sensys Gatso Group, thank you very much for being here and answering my questions.
Thank you very much.